The Hall of Concordance on Arcturus Prime spanned an entire hemisphere of the planet, a living monument to millennia of careful diplomacy, Cold War, and precisely calculated bloodshed. Beneath its diamond-glass dome, the great races of the Galactic Compact had planned the war for centuries. Every decision, every skirmish, every treaty violation was by design. Chaos was an instrument honed and directed. The galaxy's fate, they believed, lay in their ancient, patient hands. The Zendari, masters of mind warfare, lounged in gravity-defying orbs. The Cathal swam through vats of ionized mist, their movements as deliberate as chess masters. The ancient Siveran, all fractal skin and glacial speech, debated probabilities that stretched over millennia. They had seen hundreds of species rise and fall. They had crushed insurgencies, stifled revolutions, and guided the evolution of war itself into a discipline of art. Yet none had prepared for humanity. In the third spiral arm of the galaxy, Earth had remained a curiosity at best. A low-priority, quarantined world, noted for erratic development and primitive, irrational conflict patterns, left to mature or destroy themselves as countless others had. When the Charal of the outer clouds encroached upon Earth's protected zone, the Compact saw an opportunity. Humanity could be a sacrificial piece on the board, their suffering catalyzing a larger, necessary war of restructuring among the races. Their chaos could be contained, harnessed. What they did not realize was that chaos was not humanity's flaw, it was their weapon. It began with the Battle of Lighton's Rift. A minor engagement by Compact standards, a show of force. A culling, the Charal fleet's biomechanical monstrosities bred for relentless automated assault swarmed through the rift like a black tide. The first human defense squadrons, outfitted with crude projectile weapons and reaction thrusters, were expected to disintegrate within minutes. Predictions estimated human resistance would crumble after initial contact. Psychological models forecast surrender rates at 92%. Instead, Earth Fleet's 7th Division did not retreat. Commander Elias Varick stood on the bridge of the Vigilant Dawn, watching the enemy horde approach across the tactical displays. He could feel the fear in the room, thick as gravity, yet his voice was steady as he gave the order. "Burn the playbook, we improvise." He gave a simple command, one not found in any doctrinal archive. Scatter. Ships peeled off from formation in seemingly erratic patterns, engines flaring unpredictably. They weaved through Charal salvos with impossible maneuvers, violating every principle of structured naval warfare. Some ships feigned catastrophic damage, only to launch ambushes at point-blank range. Others overloaded their own reactors to create sudden gravitational anomalies, ripping apart Charal formations. Tactical officers modified shipboard AI mid-battle, turning targeting programs into creative, semi-sentient aggressors. In less than an hour, the tide shifted. The Charal's hive algorithms, perfected against millennia of structured enemy doctrine, could not comprehend this formless, chaotic resistance. Their strategies relied on prediction, and humanity had shattered predictability into 1,000 splinters. Charal command nodes overloaded, misinterpreted signals, and began firing upon their own vanguard. What was meant to be a controlled extermination devolved into catastrophic infighting among the invaders. By the 70-minute mark, humanity had won the Battle of Lighton's Rift. Not through superior technology, not through numbers, but through audacity, through adaptability so extreme it bordered on insanity, through the refusal to die in the manner expected of them. The Council of Concordance, receiving the battle feeds in real time, fell into stunned silence. Centuries of strategic calculus unraveled before their eyes, probability matrices failed, long-established models collapsed under the weight of raw, irrational human defiance. The Zendari mindcasters were the first to voice concern, their collective consciousness rippling with unease. The Siveran archivists issued emergency protocol recommendations, urging recalibration of all human contact scenarios. The Cathal War Masters convened emergency sessions to devise countermeasures. But it was too late. Within the hour, humanity had not only survived, they had transformed the war itself. Across the Compact's vast network, alarms blared, factions argued, alliances wavered. The war, once a symphony conducted by immortal hands, had become an uncontrolled inferno. The Compact's ancient plans, centuries in the making, were being reduced to ash before they even ignited. Back aboard the Vigilant Dawn, Commander Varick looked over the casualty reports with grim satisfaction. Losses had been heavy, his people had paid a price, but they had won something more important than a battle. They had won the right to be feared. Earth's broadcast to the Compact, translated into every tongue and frequency the galaxy could hear, was short and raw. "We are not your pawns, we are not your sacrifice. If you come for us again, you will find chaos waiting, and it will devour you." The signal cut off, silence reigned in the halls of power. For the first time in tens of thousands of years, the galaxy was uncertain. And humanity was just beginning. The Council of Concordance splintered within days of Lighton's rift. Old rivalries, once buried under layers of diplomacy and mutual disdain for lesser species, erupted into open accusation. Zendari envoys lashed out at Sivran prognosticators, blaming their failed projections. Cathal war leaders demanded authorization for immediate extermination campaigns, citing humanity as a contagion that could not be allowed to spread. In hidden channels, factions once bound by rigid alliances whispered of betrayal, preemption, and restructuring. The Compact had long treated wars as rituals, controlled demolitions to reset balance among powers, but this was not ritual. Humanity had introduced an infection into the heart of their civilization: uncertainty. Earth did not wait for the next blow. Within a week of Lighton's rift, human forces launched the Breaker Initiative. They did not aim to hold territory or establish formal battlefronts, concepts still ingrained in the thinking of the Compact's militaries. Instead, they struck at communication nexuses, supply relays, and information archives. Small, mobile strike groups appeared deep behind enemy lines, wreaking havoc and disappearing before retaliation could be organized. Human captains operated with unprecedented autonomy. Squadron commanders created ad hoc alliances with disaffected mercenary species. Scientists on Earth reverse-engineered captured alien tech with breathtaking speed, creating hybrid weapons whose operation manuals changed as often as the battles themselves. No two human units fought the same way. No two encounters could be predicted by existing models. On Caldrith Station, an ancient hub of compact logistics, the station's director watched in disbelief as security feeds showed human saboteurs not attacking critical systems, but rewriting them. Infiltrators introduced viruses into centuries-old archives, altering navigational data, flipping military designations, and sowing invisible chaos that rippled outward across entire fleets. The K'Ral, reeling from their defeat at Lighton's rift, attempted to mount a direct assault on Earth's primary orbital defenses. They arrived with overwhelming numbers, confident that no organic species could withstand such force. They found the skies above Earth bristling with makeshift railguns, gravitational disruptors repurposed from alien relics, and carrier swarms assembled from civilian ships jury-rigged into battle platforms. Earth's defensive web was a patchwork nightmare by compact standards, full of inefficiencies and contradictions. It was also utterly lethal. Human commanders fed false telemetry into K'Ral targeting systems. Simulated ship signatures drifted across K'Ral sensors, leading assault fleets into dense asteroid belts and radiation storms. Precision strikes targeted command vessels with uncanny accuracy, the product of new adaptive targeting algorithms that evolved mid-battle based on live enemy response patterns. K'Ral fleets fragmented, fell into disarray, and were annihilated piecemeal. The victory was not without cost. Human casualties were staggering. Entire cities along Earth's equatorial belt burned under K'Ral bioweapon strikes before countermeasures could be deployed. Oceans boiled in places. Ecosystems collapsed. But Earth endured. More importantly, it learned. Back on Arteris Prime, the Council's emergency session devolved into chaos. Formal declarations of censure, once delivered with the weight of ancient protocol, were now hurled across the floor with the desperation of drowning powers. Doctrinal debates gave way to shouting matches. Ancient, calcified traditions collapsed under the relentless tide of immediate survival. A shift, imperceptible to those locked in old ways of thinking, began among the younger generations of alien species. To them, humanity was not a barbaric anomaly. They were proof of concept, a new kind of existence, a species that did not fit into the stagnant models of the Compact. Across the galaxy, whispers began. Resistance cells once crushed beneath the Compact's boot rekindled, inspired by human broadcasts. Disparate species abandoned old loyalties. Minor powers, long oppressed, sent emissaries to Earth under coded banners of truce. They offered knowledge, technology, warriors in exchange for partnership, or simply to witness the rising storm. Earth, bloodied but unbowed, became something the Compact had no words for. A revolution. In a cold, dark chamber beneath the Council's central spire, the Sivran convened an ancient protocol not used in over 20,000 years. They activated the Obsidian Codex, a weapon not of mass destruction but of strategic reality rewriting. A tool capable of initiating controlled societal collapse across sectors, destabilizing the very cultures that dared to defy the Concordance. The Compact would not go quietly. In the command bunker beneath Mount Erebus on Earth, Commander Varric and his team reviewed the fragmented intelligence reports pouring in from scattered scouts and allied defectors. They knew retaliation was coming. They knew it would not be conventional. They prepared anyway. Varric stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, red zones blinking across hundreds of light years. His officers waited for his orders. "We're not playing their game," he said. "We make a new one." It was not a battle cry, it was a simple statement of fact. Humanity was done reacting. They would become the architects of the galaxy's new age, or they would fall trying. The first phase was over. The real war had only just begun. The first signs of the Compact's retaliation appeared not in orbit, but in the minds of humanity's brightest. Scientists, tacticians, and analysts across Earth's networks began experiencing cascading failures in thought. Logical pathways collapsed, memories blurred, key researchers fell into comas, raving of impossible geometries and collapsing timelines. Earth's fledgling interstellar infrastructure was paralyzed without firing a single shot. The Obsidian Codex had been deployed. The weapon was a psychic virus, a mimetic contagion seeded into communications, mathematical constants, and even artistic expressions. It destabilized not machines, but the conceptual frameworks needed to wield them. It was the distillation of millennia of compact mastery over strategic subversion. Earth trembled under its invisible assault. Yet in the blackened ruins of the assault on New Alexandria, a city once dedicated to scientific achievement, a new answer was born. Dr. Nema Castillo, herself half-mad from the Codex's attack, realized the key flaw in the Compact's weapon. It assumed linear thought structures. It assumed the enemy valued logic above survival, stability above improvisation. She gathered what remained of her cognitive science team and developed a brutal solution: conceptual asymmetry. Instead of trying to shield humanity's collective consciousness, they rewired it. In a sweeping act of cultural defiance, Earth's communication systems shifted overnight. Mathematical representations became non-standard, mutated into chaotic symbol clusters only interpretable by human minds. Language itself was twisted, evolving into multi-layered dialects that changed context based on emotional input and environmental factors. Art became a weaponized medium, a living tapestry that carried encoded instructions only decipherable through intuition and sensory overload. Where the Codex sought to collapse rationality, humanity responded by embracing a new form of irrational resilience. In the weeks that followed, Earth's wounded sectors reawakened, fiercer and stranger than before. The Compact's second wave, armadas of precision-bred war fleets, entered human-held systems expecting collapse. Instead, they found defenders operating outside all norms. Earth's fleets, now hybridized with scavenged alien tech, fought not as militaries but as living storms. Frigates split into modular segments mid-battle, recombining into new configurations. Starfighters deployed non-weaponized drives to warp local gravity fields, turning entire battlefields into shifting maelstroms. Human strategists sent deliberately flawed decoy fleets to bait compact forces into traps so convoluted they collapsed command hierarchies under the weight of impossible tactical options. At the Battle of Red Halcyon, a human fleet of only 30 vessels broke a compact war column of over 200 ships. They did so not by matching strength with strength, but by breaking the very assumptions underpinning galactic warfare. The Compact's shock turned to horror. For the first time, desertions spread among their ranks. Mercenary species, inspired or terrified by humanity's example, mutinied. Old puppet governments crumbled. Civil wars erupted along the Compact's frontier regions. In a desperate bid to stem the tide, the Council of Concordance authorized direct intervention by the Valdor, their secret enforcers, beings genetically engineered and cybernetically enhanced over eons to embody perfect, obedient supremacy. The Valdor did not operate with fleets. They were singular weapons, each capable of annihilating cities, rewriting planetary biospheres, extinguishing species with surgical efficiency. When the first Valdor agent, designation Xiron VI, landed on Mars's restored colonies, human defenses crumbled within hours. Entire regiments vanished, their minds erased as if they had never existed. Terraforming projects reversed overnight, leaving settlements gasping in toxic atmospheres. Panic spread through Earth's command structure. Yet amid the despair, Varric proposed the unthinkable. If they built a perfect weapon, he said, then they built a weakness. While compact designs leaned toward centralized perfection, humanity excelled at decentralized resilience. Earth's intelligence divisions launched Project Fracture, a decentralized campaign not to defeat the Valdor head-on, but to dismantle their operational coherence. Small human units, often no larger than a dozen soldiers, were inserted behind enemy lines. Their mission was not to kill, but to confuse, to corrupt, to infect the Valdor's command substrates with noise, contradiction, and paradox. They sabotaged memory cores. They rerouted sensory feeds through constantly shifting virtual overlays. They created synthetic battlefield data so convoluted that the Valdor's predictive algorithms turned against themselves. On Ceres Station, operative teams lured scifi into a containment chamber rigged not with explosives, but with a living art installation, a swirling mass of human creativity so chaotic and self-referential that it became a logical virus. scifi, unable to reconcile the endless paradoxes, collapsed into inert entropy. Humanity had slain a god of war, not with force, but with the uncontainable maelstrom of its own nature. The victory sent shockwaves through the compact. More Valdor units were dispatched, but now every engagement risked contagion. Each human interaction, every artifact left behind, could infect their perfect designs with chaos. Humanity was becoming not a threat to be eliminated, but a reality to be survived. The Council of Concordance, its authority bleeding from 1,000 cuts, convened one final time in the shattered ruins of the Hall of Concordance. There, in the flickering half-light of broken legacies, the ancient powers debated their last option. The total erasure of Earth. The use of forbidden technologies that could scour a planet down to quantum dust. A genocidal solution. And even then, in their arrogance, they misunderstood. Humanity had already seeded itself across the stars. The war was no longer about Earth. It was about survival against an idea that could not be killed. The Compact's decision to annihilate Earth shattered what little unity remained among its member species. To the Sivran, it was a calculated necessity. To the Zendari, it was an abomination, a failure of their guiding philosophy. The Cathal, bred for conquest, cared little for the method, but even they questioned the wisdom of provoking a chaos that had already seeped into their own ranks. Debates turned to bloodshed. Factions withdrew their fleets from the central war effort. Some sent emissaries to Earth not in peace but in warning. Others simply vanished into the dark between stars, unwilling to face what was coming. Still, the weapon was prepared. A relic device, a holdover from the forgotten wars of the progenitor epoch, was unearthed from the forbidden vaults of Tyros B, a planetary disassembler. Its activation would fracture not just Earth's surface, but its place in local spacetime, casting it into oblivion. The device began its slow, terrible charge. Yet as the Council set their final weapon in motion, they found themselves hunted. Human strike teams, no longer confined to their own systems, moved through compact space with surgical precision. No longer mere soldiers, they were insurgents, assassins, saboteurs operating with the precision of viruses inside a dying host. They moved between factions, sowing discord, turning compact worlds against one another with nothing but rumors and stolen technologies. On Enzarath Prime, humanity orchestrated a financial collapse that vaporized entire sectors of the Compact's supply chains. On Dura's Lament, they released a mimetic plague that turned populations against their own planetary governors. On the shadow moon Alluvier, human agents assassinated 3 Sivran High Arbiters in a single hour without firing a single shot. It was not war. It was a systemic unraveling. On Earth, the people did not wait passively for their fate. Knowing the device approached, humanity enacted Project Daedalus, a plan born from desperation and unshackled ambition. In hidden vaults beneath the ruins of Geneva and the buried city of Chongqing, ancient human ingenuity fused with alien science. They created the Arkships, colossal vessels not intended for simple colonization, but for cultural seeding, planetary reformation, and, if necessary, retaliation beyond the extinction of Earth itself. The Arkships were not merely ships. They were mobile civilizations, each carrying not just people, but entire ecosystems, thought archives, adaptable technology libraries, and autonomous manufacturing cores. Their directive was clear: if Earth fell, humanity would scatter like embers into the galaxy and ignite 1,000 fires in return. The device's countdown entered its final hours. Compact fleets, exhausted and fragmented, rallied for one last perimeter around Earth. It was not for Earth's sake. They feared what humanity would become if allowed to escape the noose. Commander Varric, now Admiral of Earth's unified fleets, addressed the remnants of humanity from the bridge of the Vigilant Dawn, still battered from 100 battles yet unbroken. They would erase us from existence, Varric said, his voice transmitted across every screen, every transmitter, every implant. Not because we are weak, but because they have no defense against what we are becoming. Across Earth's scarred surface and in the skies beyond, humanity answered. Civilian transports, private ships, hybrid fighters, and repurposed station modules surged toward orbit, forming an armada of desperation and defiance. Arkship cores activated, engines burning with the combined fury of a species that refused to die quietly. The final battle of Earth began. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The compact brought numbers, ancient weaponry, gravitational singularities, and entropy bombs. Humanity brought chaos. Compact admirals found their command hierarchies subverted mid-battle by falsified orders indistinguishable from their own encrypted protocols. Their targeting systems betrayed them, locking onto friendly vessels. Their communication arrays bled disinformation crafted to drive entire fleets into black hole traps seeded days before the assault. The device itself, hidden within a nested array of phase-shifted defense grids, became the primary objective. Humanity's finest, the Black Star Division, sacrificed themselves wave after wave to tear open pathways through impossible defenses. Varric led the final charge himself. The Vigilant Dawn, patched with alien alloys and human grit, rammed through the final defensive perimeter with reactor cores overloaded for self-destruction. The impact shattered the protective array around the device. In its final seconds, Varric transmitted a single message back to Earth's surviving forces. Scatter, burn brighter. The Vigilant Dawn detonated in a silent, brilliant fury visible across half the solar system. The device faltered. Earth was spared, but only just. Cracks in spacetime spread across the planet's mantle, reshaping its biosphere into a world unrecognizable to old human eyes. Oceans inverted, continents drifted into alien skies, but life endured. Above, the Arkships ignited their jump engines, tearing into the void. Humanity was no longer a singular world, it had become a diaspora. A storm with 1,000 eyes. And the galaxy, for the first time in recorded history, faced an adversary it could neither predict nor contain. The compact collapsed in the aftermath. Entire member species declared independence or defected into human-aligned coalitions. New powers rose among the ruins, many modeled on humanity's doctrine of relentless adaptation and decentralized resilience. In shadowed corners of the galaxy, the surviving architects of the old order plotted their revenge. But it was too late. Humanity had changed the nature of war itself. Not in centuries, not even in years, but in a single hour and every moment afterward. And they were just getting started. The Arkships fanned out into the shattered lanes of the galaxy, each carrying the seed of a civilization unbound by old laws. Each Arkship was different. Some bore entire preserved cities, their lights flickering beneath transparent hulls. Others carried forests and oceans, encoded and reconstituted through biofabricators. A few were weaponized beyond comprehension, planetary sieges in transit. They did not travel aimlessly. Humanity had learned that to survive among ancient powers, they could not simply react, they had to shape. Every Arkship established new footholds along the fault lines of compact space, where former colonies collapsed into lawless frontiers. Some forged alliances with insurgent species that had once cowered under compact dominion. Others imposed order through overwhelming force, establishing protectorates where chaos would have otherwise consumed. Where humans landed, the rules changed. The first of the new human worlds rose in the Ashen Crescent, a devastated cluster of systems left abandoned after centuries of overexploitation by the Zendari. Here, humanity rebuilt not according to old Earth patterns but to new needs, modular cities that could rearrange themselves overnight, societies governed by flexible compacts rather than rigid hierarchies. Each world was different. Each was unpredictable. The compact's remnants watched in horror as the infection of human adaptability spread faster than their most aggressive containment protocols could follow. Fleets sent to crush fledgling human enclaves found themselves ambushed by defenders who knew their tactics before they were even deployed. Infiltrators found no centralized authority to decapitate. Assassinations yielded no strategic impact. The old methods were obsolete. At the heart of this rising maelstrom was something new, the Terran ascendancy. Born from the surviving commanders of Earth's fleet, from exiled scientists, from war-scarred civilians who refused to bow, the ascendancy was not a nation in the old sense. It was a cultural singularity, a consensus of purpose spread through encrypted quantum links among the arcships and new colonies. Their doctrine was simple: build, adapt, disrupt, survive. The Ascendancy's first major operation beyond survival came in the form of the Shackle Wars. Recognizing that the surviving elites of the Compact still held dangerous technologies, world burners, mind colors, temporal destabilizers, humanity launched a campaign not of destruction but of liberation. Wherever a compact weapon of mass control was found, human forces seized it not to wield it but to dismantle it, to prevent any power, even their own, from ever again holding life hostage. This strategy earned humanity something it had never truly possessed in the galaxy: legitimacy. Entire species once resigned to stagnation rose up, citing human declarations of shared survival and adaptation. Treaties written in the fires of necessity replaced ancient compacts forged in arrogance. The galaxy's great center, once ruled from Arcturus Prime, fractured into a constellation of new alliances, each touched in some way by humanity's revolution. Yet not all welcomed the new order. From the ruins of the Compact, a coalition of purists rose, the Siroth Concordium, led by surviving Cathal War Masters, disaffected Zendari Hymens, and rogue Sivran archivists. They rejected the chaos humanity had unleashed, vowing to restore the harmony of ordained civilization. They moved in secret, constructing fleets bred not from logic but from vengeance. Their ultimate gambit was the Crucible Directive. Rather than trying to erase humanity, they sought to reshape it, to weaponize the very traits that had made humans so dangerous. A weaponized genetic plague, engineered to hyperaccelerate human mutation beyond control, was deployed in the Drossian Belt, where 3 new human colonies had taken root. The Ascendancy responded with an answer born from the core of its philosophy. Rather than resist the plague, they adapted to it. Human scientists embraced the mutation protocols, weaving symbiotic stabilizers into their own DNA structures. Entire generations rose who were biologically incapable of thinking linearly, whose neural architectures evolved to process contradiction, uncertainty, and asymmetry as naturally as breathing. The result was a new kind of human. Not better, not worse, just inevitable. The Siroth Concordium, prepared for a conventional biological collapse, found themselves facing an enemy that could not be mapped by any biological or psychological model. In the Battle of the Fractured Nebula, the first generation of adapted humans, codenamed Evolvers, confronted the Concordium's flagship, the Oblivion Mantle. Without fleets or weapons in the traditional sense, the Evolvers hijacked the ship's very architecture, rewriting its AI through nothing more than viral thought pattern emissions, disrupting causality within its corridors, and forcing its crew to experience multiple contradictory realities until their command structure imploded. The Ascendancy did not just win. They redefined the meaning of victory. The Crucible Directive backfired catastrophically. The Siroth Concordium fractured under the weight of its own contradictions. Entire rogue factions switched sides mid-battle, seduced not by promises of power, but by the undeniable truth that humanity's path was not domination, it was transformation. At the edge of the galaxy, where dark energy storms churned and stars were born in violence, humanity found its new home. Not on a single world, not under a single banner, but as a diaspora of will. A species that had begun as prey in a carefully managed galactic order had shattered the ancient councils, rewritten the laws of conflict, and birthed a future where survival was not dictated by strength alone, but by the capacity to become something new whenever the universe demanded it. Admiral Varick's name passed into legend, his final broadcast etched into every monument on every new human world. "Understand this," he had said, "we are not chaos, we are the storm that shapes new worlds." The galaxy, vast and ancient, had witnessed empires rise and fall. But none had ever seen a force like humanity. And now, in the endless tapestry of stars, a new epoch had begun. One not of stagnation, but of eternal becoming. The age of humanity. The galaxy would never be the same. It had changed in a single hour. And it would change forevermore.